So, Eric, uh, thank you. After that first episode, I was left feeling like there's still so much that I want to learn and know, specifically about Tantra, because it's a subject I've always been interested in, but also a little bit confused by. Um, some ideas I've had of it is it's a form of sex. It's I've been told in some communities it's dangerous. Um, I've been told it can be confusing and people have the wrong idea about it. And so for me, I really want to learn one, what it is, or at least what it is from your perspective and what you've been through. And then also to kind of think about how generally people could relate to these ideas and philosophies so that they can connect to it too. So I thought we would start by looking at a general definition of tantric sex. So I pulled this up from a pretty random article, but this is by no means a scientific podcast, so we are going to keep it general.
Oh,
So
yes.
it's what is tantric sex, and this is about how to sex up your or spice up your sex life with tantric sex. So it's an ancient Hindu practice, 5,000 years old, and it means the weaving and expansion of energy. It's a slow form of sex that's said to increase intimacy and create a mind body connection that can lead to powerful orgasms. Tantric sex, as it's known, can be done by anyone interested who wants to increase their sex life or find new depths to their love making. So, the two things in that really interest me specifically, I think, coming at it from a relational perspective as a therapist, is the intimacy and that mind body connection. So I think the intimacy part is really interesting for me because, sexuality, I hope, would be something that connects people. One connects to themselves, right? So the intimacy of that personal relationship we have to ourselves and that mind body connection, but then also how we connect to someone else. Like how do I take a practice like this and get closer to my girlfriend? Or how do I take a practice like this and understand myself at a deeper level? So if you could speak to any of that and how you interpret that, that would be really great.
hmm Thank you, Kyle. That's a very good definition. First, we need to understand that Tantra is not sexuality. You also mentioned that. You only read the part related to the sexuality. Tantra is a philosophy at the end. I'm not sure how many thousand years old. I really do not know the history of it, but the documents I read, I think it started in Kashmir, and it was a sacred philosophy. So it wasn't shared to the common public, but it has been kept as a sacred religion or sacred practice.
Yeah.
Regardless, it's a journey to find your true self at the end with certain practices. But we are not going to talk about that. We will be specifically talking about the sexuality part. Um, when it comes to the sexuality, I really like the definition. So it's talking about weaving the energies.
Yeah.
That's really important. One part I could certainly relate to that because it's all about understanding sexuality not only physical way but also energetic way. That's really important. So the slow pace intimacy, it's very important because when you start doing the things very fast, it is you cannot connect, you cannot stay in the moment. It
Mm,
becomes a routine, it becomes a mechanic function.
mm,
So that element is also very important to me, and also I got that very clearly at my practice. So that's also important. And mind body connection, that certainly is, because we will be talking about the orgasm and the male orgasm in a while, maybe, or in the next episodes. And It's, first of all, orgasm is not the purpose of the intimacy and the sexuality. Orgasm is the result of it. So we need to be very clear on that.
Before we go on to learning more about the orgasms, because I think those are really essential to some of the research you've looked into, I just want to kind of tie this up in terms of Tantra and your experience, right? So the first episode, we talked about how you kind of took this leap of faith. There was a lot of courage to move forward and to let go of a lot of your life at that time. When you discovered Tantra, are there some things that kind of stood out to you in those first
To
workshops?
first discover my body,
Mm.
because that's the one of the aspect of the Tantra, to be aware of your body, be aware of your sensations, discover more
Yeah.
what's happening. As men, we are really just weak on that. We don't know how to listen to our body, how to listen to the sensations in our body, the messages the body give it to us. Intimacy. I'm naturally intimate person, so I prefer to create a space between me and my partner and enjoy the moment. We always relate the sex with the intercourse, which is not. So the sex could be in different forms, even the looking, hugging, or touching in a different forms, not only the sexual organs. So we better go much deeper on that, the definition of it, and how we can, the key thing is how we can connect with our partner in
Mm.
a peaceful, in a safe space. And the other thing I learned, be open. That's the one thing I learned about that. As much as clearly open yourself up. Talk about your desires, talk about your limitations, what you want, what you don't want.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that you talk about that. And I love that you kind of share the need for communication, and the need to be able to form a space where you can connect with your partner, and how so much of that is about creating that space, and that the dance will happen within that, but the space that you
Mhm.
create and nurture to allow that to happen is almost just as important. That I hear in all of that, that's very beautiful in terms of a real connection. And what I hope we can explore in more episodes is building from that, right? So what does
Yeah,
sex look like when we're building from a place of strong intimacy, really good communication, um, clear boundaries, clear respect, love,
that's true.
and then
That's very
connection.
good points. All of them we really need to go one by one,
Yeah,
communication,
and
intimacy.
then
They're very, very valid points, Carl.
yeah,
Well,
the mind body, the mind body in terms of the individual, knowing yourself, but then also the mind body of someone else. How do you connect with both their mind, their heart, their spirit, and their body? And how does that unify to create
mhm.
an experience that is a totality? Because that's what we talked about, which I don't think you edited out, but when we talked about in the first episode was that totality too, right? And how there is something very total about the experience of the spiritual nature of tantra, or the orgasm when it's experienced in that context, which I just think
Yeah,
is so important and really interesting, and really, like, I think the world is thirsty for that kind of connection.
exactly. We didn't talk about the cosmic orgasm, which talks a little bit about how you share your energetic body to your partner, and she shares it back to you, and you circulate this energy between each other,
So in a
which
way,
eventually you reaching to the unity and totality
I love
and
that, because
total
that
void and total bliss,
to me,
which I think it is called as cosmic orgasm, but the definitions are not important. So
yeah.
not only experiencing the orgasm by yourself, but also experiencing with your partner. But key here is the woman, because woman has the creative power. So they are the ones who just starts circulating and giving the energy. So woman should know what she's doing too.